Hi, this is James Cook of the University of Maine at Augusta, and this video is a walkthrough of an exercise taking a look at occupations using Bureau of Labor Statistics data and thinking about two aspects of those occupations. First, the gender wage gap of that occupation, and second, the sex segregation of that occupation. So to get that information, we're going to follow two links, which you can see here, especially if I make this screen a little bit bigger. You'll see there are two Bureau of Labor Statistics links, one to CPS AAT 11 and one to CPS AAT 39. Those are table 39 and table 11. And we're going to take a look at those two by opening them in new tabs. So you'll see the current population survey here, table 11. That's CPS AAT 11. And in table 11, you'll notice that there is, if we make this a little bit bigger, you'll notice that for the first row, there's simply a total description of all those 16 years of age and over who are employed and what the percent women is. 46.8% in 2015. This is an important percentage. It's one that you can use as a benchmark. So then you can compare it to, say, chief executives. Women make up 27.9% of chief executives. Women make up, on the other hand, 49.6% of financial managers. So women are slightly overrepresented among financial managers because that 49.6% is higher than 46.8% overall for all occupations. Among chief executives, wow, it looks like women are strongly underrepresented. So that's the first table. The second table we're going to look at is table 39. And that table is important because it contains information on the median weekly earnings of men and the median weekly earnings of women, who are among all full-time wage and salary workers. And that full-time part is important because men and women also are different in the extent to which they work full-time. So if we didn't control for that by looking at table 39, we might find out that women have a lower take-home pay on a weekly basis for paid labor because they're working fewer hours. But no, that's not the case here because we're looking at everyone being a full-time wage or salary worker. So now, what you're going to want to do in order to complete this assignment is start up a spreadsheet. I'm going to complete this spreadsheet using work using Microsoft Excel. You could use Google Sheets or some other form of work with a spreadsheet. So we're going to start off and we're going to type in the labels of some variables. The first of which is going to be occupation. And I'm going to ask you to pick 10 occupations. The second is the percent women in the occupation. And I'll make that column a little wider to fit that label. The third column is, actually, I'm going to hold off on that, or we'll just call it gender, if I can spell, gender pay gap. And again, we'll make that a little wider. And then we want to take a look at two more pieces of information that allow us to get the gender pay gap. So to take a look back at table 39, you'll notice that there is no column for the gender pay gap. but there is a column for the median weekly earnings of men and one for the median weekly earnings of women. So it's okay if you want to abbreviate median weekly earnings as WME of men and WMWE, median weekly earnings of women, just to save a little space. So you have 5 columns set up for 5 variables. And now you just need to go pick some occupations. I'm just going to pick 10 occupations kind of off the cuff. I might actually just pick 5 to keep this video short. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to look at animal trainers. And I'm going to look up above. Oh, and I'm going to notice that there's not enough animal trainers to give me information in these 2 columns. So I have to pick another occupation. There are just too few animal trainers in the world. You have to make sure that you have full data there. What can I pick? Oh, how about recreation and fitness workers? That looks good. Okay, it's got data on the median weekly earnings of men and women. So I'll take that information and I'll type it in right here. Recreation and fitness workers. And again, I'll make the first column wider in order to fit the name. Now, I'm going to want to find for recreation and fitness workers the median weekly earnings for men and for women. 684 and 526. Now, I can go up to the top again to check that those columns correspond to what I think they correspond to. Yes, men's median weekly earnings and women's median weekly earnings. That's a tongueful, isn't it? Now from that, I can get the gender pay gap, which is the pay of women relative to the pay of men. And that's simple. To get that, all I need to do is get an equation. And I do that by hitting equals. And then I'm going to say, oh, well, I want to take this cell here. I could click on it and it'll tell me that's cell E2. And then I want to divide that by this cell here. I click on it and it'll tell me it's D2. And I find out with a gender pay gap of 0.769 that women who are recreation and fitness workers in what year? In 2015, earned 76.9% of what men earned on a weekly basis. That's the gender pay gap for this occupation. Now, what is the percent women? Well, I don't want to look at table 39 for that. I want to look at table 11. So I'm going to look for recreation and fitness workers, and the way I'm going to do that is by searching this page. I can do that by hitting, in Windows at least, hitting and holding down the Control key and then F. Control F. And then I will type in recreation and fitness workers. Wonderful. There I am. Unfortunately, I didn't remember which of these columns contains the percent women, so I'm going to go right back up to the top. Okay, it is the second column of numbers, the percent of employed who are women. And so I'm going to go back and look for recreation and fitness again, and I'm going to find out that it is 61.6% women. Okay, then I'm going to look for another occupation. And I'm just going to scroll through and I'm going to find cabinet makers and bench carpenters. And now I know that that is 7.9% women. Oh, okay. Cabinet makers and bench carpenters. I'm going to write that down. And I'm going to widen my column again. And now I know by looking over here to the second column that it's 7.9% women. 7.9% women. And now I'm going to want to look at table 39, cabinet makers and bench carpenters. And I find, unfortunately, that there's not gender pay information for both men and women there. Too rare. So I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to look at packers and packagers by hand. And I'm doing this kind of by trial and error, right? For some occupations, there's not enough information because there's not enough people who work there, but there certainly are for packagers and packers by hand. And I know men are earning $462, women are earning $424. This is, again, on a weekly basis. And I want to take E3 and divide it by D3 to get the sex gap in pay, the gender gap in pay. And so this is a closer gap. Women are earning 91.7% of what men earn. What percent of packers and packagers are women? I'm going to hit Control F again, and I'm going to type in packers and packagers. And I find out that they are 51.9% women. Okay, time for me to head back to find another occupation here. And office clerks, general office clerks. That's great. I'll use that one. In this case, I find that, okay, they're called office clerks general. I find that men are earning $609 a week and women are earning $622. So that makes a sex gap in pay of larger than 1, which means that women are earning 2.1% more than men in this particular occupation. What percent of office clerks are women? 82.3%. Okay, now I'm going to do just one more so that we can get the feel of this, and then we're going to talk about creating a scatter plot. So I'm going to go back to table 39, and I'm going to look at receptionists and information clerks. That's right up here. Near the top, I find out that, oh my goodness, men earn $619 a week on average, median actually, and women have a median weekly earnings of $569. I go back and forth to check, make sure I'm remembering that correctly, and then I find out that the gender gap in pay is E5, that's this cell, equals E5 divided by D5. And the sex gap in pay is very similar to that for packagers, 91.9%. So that's a pretty slim gender pay gap. I wonder, for receptionists and information clerks, what the percent women is in the occupation. Wow, 90.6% women. Okay, and that's receptionists and information clerks. Now that I have all this information here, I'm going to want to do what? I'm going to look back at the assignment. It says create a scatter plot in which sex segregation of an occupation is on the x-axis and the gender wage gap of an occupation is on the y-axis. Okay, so this here is sex segregation, percent women, and over here is the gender pay gap. Okay, so let's take these two columns here, highlight them, and then click Insert. And do you see here it says Insert Scatter or Bubble Chart. I could click Recommended Charts, and it would recommend a scatter right away. I could click OK. And then I have here, I'll make these labels larger so you can see them. Oh, that's a little too large. I have a scatter plot. A scatter plot is one in which each case, each occupation has its own dot, and it represents a combination of an x-axis and a y-axis. Now, the x-axis and the y-axis I ask for very particularly. I want sex segregation on the x-axis, and it is, and the gender pay gap to be on the y-axis. Super, it is. There's a little bit that's missing here. I would like to be able to label these axes. So to do that, I'm going to click the Design tab up above and then add a chart element. Axis titles. My horizontal axis title, I just go over and select it, and then I'm going to double click in here, and I'm going to type in sex segregation, and then I'll indicate that is percent women. And then I'll go back and I'll click on Design and Add Chart Element, Axis Titles, and Vertical. And then I'll double click on that and I'll call that the gender pay gap. So now I've got a scatter plot. Then finally, the last part of this assignment is to answer the question, what do your results appear to indicate? Now to do that, I'm going to have to write something. Now you could write literally right here in your Microsoft Office file. You could write some words and phrases and sentences, and you could include them here. I'd be happy to read them there. You could also include them as a separate note as you upload this spreadsheet, which I want you to do. Either would be okay. The result is going to be that you're going to have to take a look at this and say, according to this pattern, do I think that the gender pay gap and the level of sex segregation is actually related? In this case, I only have 4 occupations. I want you to look at 10 and to try to interpret the relationship between those 2 variables. Best of luck, and if you have any questions at all, please let me know, and I'll be glad to help you out of any rough patch you might have.